The office froze when the elevator doors slid open. The air seemed to thicken as every pair of eyes darted toward the tall man in a charcoal suit, stepping out with calm, measured authority. His name alone could silence a room. Ethan Cole, the youngest millionaire CEO in the city, known for his discipline and his unshakable focus on perfection. But that morning he stopped mid-step, his gaze fixed on something that had no place in a corporate world built on glass and steel, a baby's cry. Everyone followed his line of sight to the corner cubicle. There, half hidden behind a monitor, sat Maya, the quiet employee from accounting, clutching her crying baby against her chest. Her eyes were wide, her face pale. Whispers rippled through the floor like a storm brewing under the surface. Ethan walked forward slowly, his polished shoes tapping sharply against the marble. "Who allowed this?" His voice carried the authority of a man used to being obeyed. Maya stood up shakily. I'm sorry, sir. My babysitter canceled, and I had no one to watch her. I couldn't afford to miss another day." Her voice cracked under the weight of exhaustion and fear. Ethan's eyes hardened. "You know our policy, miss?" "Maya," she whispered. "Maya Thompson." "Miss Thompson," he repeated coolly. "This is not a daycare. This is a place of business." Her baby let out another small wail, and Maya rocked her gently, her trembling hands betraying her nerves. "Please, Mr. Cole, I've been working double shifts to cover the rent. I promise this won't happen again, but I couldn't leave her alone." He cut her off sharply. "You should have called HR. You can't just bring a—" But his words faltered when he saw the baby reach out, tiny fingers curling toward the air as if sensing his voice. For a long, quiet moment, Ethan just stared. His jaw tightened, then slowly unclenched. He crouched down, not something anyone had ever seen him do, and looked at the baby. The infant's cries softened. Her eyes met his, and in that instant, the air changed. Ethan stood back up, his expression unreadable. "Everyone back to work," he ordered, his tone softer now. The employees quickly scattered, murmuring in disbelief. "Miss Thompson," he said after a pause, "come with me." In the privacy of the break room, Maya sat across from him, her nerves still frayed. Ethan studied her, her tired eyes, her worn-out clothes, the determination etched into her face. "How long have you been working here?" he asked. "Almost 2 years, sir," she said quietly. He leaned back, thoughtful. "Tomorrow, bring her again." Maya blinked, confused. "Sir, you heard me. Bring her! We'll make arrangements." That night, Maya went home in disbelief. She held her baby close and whispered, "Lily, I think something just changed." But what she didn't know was that when Ethan returned to his office, he opened a locked drawer and pulled out a small silver bracelet engraved with the name Grace. His eyes glistened. "Maybe," he murmured, "this is my second chance." Hook for next chapter. As the city lights flickered outside his window, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that fate had just walked into his building in the form of a tired mother and her child. And this time, he wasn't going to turn away. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The city lights spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, but his eyes stayed fixed on the small silver bracelet in his hand, the one with the name Grace etched into it. He hadn't touched it in years. It used to belong to his daughter, the one he never got to hold. The pain that had once driven him to success now sat heavily in his chest. For the first time in a decade, he didn't feel powerful. He felt human. Every detail of Maya's exhausted face lingered in his mind, her trembling hands, the determination in her voice, the way she still smiled at her baby despite everything. There had been something achingly familiar in that, something pure, something he thought had died with his past. When he finally closed his eyes, all he could hear was the faint echo of a baby's laughter that didn't belong to him anymore. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the office earlier than usual. He found Maya already there, setting up a small crib beside her desk with quiet care. Her baby, Lily, cooed softly, clutching a toy rabbit with chubby fingers. Ethan stood for a moment, watching unseen. Then he turned and walked straight to HR. By noon, an internal memo spread across every department. It was simple, direct, and completely unexpected. Effective immediately, Cole Enterprises will establish an on-site childcare program for employees. Details forthcoming. The office buzzed with shock. Ethan Cole, whose name was synonymous with perfection and discipline, was now launching a daycare program. Maya read the memo twice, her eyes wide with disbelief. She didn't dare hope it had anything to do with her. But when Ethan passed by her cubicle later that afternoon, he paused and said quietly, "I told you we'd arrange something." That was the beginning of a quiet revolution. In the weeks that followed, workers who once feared speaking up now smiled more. Parents who struggled silently began bringing their children to the newly prepared playroom on the first floor. It wasn't large yet, just a converted conference room with colorful mats, toys, and 2 hired caretakers, but it was enough. Enough to make people feel seen. Maya often stayed behind after her shift to help organize the space, wiping down tables or folding tiny blankets. She never complained, never asked for recognition. One evening, Ethan walked in and found her gently humming to Lily, who had fallen asleep in her lap. "You don't have to stay this late," he said softly. She smiled without looking up. "I don't mind. This room, it means a lot to me." Ethan hesitated, then sat across from her. The man who usually commanded boardrooms now looked strangely unsure of what to say. "You changed this company more than you realize," he finally murmured. Maya glanced up, surprised. "Me? I didn't do anything." "You did everything," he said. "You reminded me what this place was supposed to stand for. People, not just profit." Her cheeks flushed. "I just wanted to keep my job." He smiled faintly. Sometimes, the smallest acts create the biggest shifts. Over the next months, the daycare grew into a fully equipped center. News outlets picked up the story of the billionaire who brought humanity back into the workplace. Ethan Cole's reputation began to change, from a cold perfectionist to a visionary leader with heart. But behind the headlines, something quieter was unfolding between Ethan and Maya. He began visiting the daycare more often, sometimes bringing small toys or asking about Lily's milestones. He watched the child crawl for the first time on the office carpet, her laughter filling the air like sunlight. Every giggle, every tiny gesture stirred something deep within him, something he had locked away long ago. One Friday evening, long after everyone had gone home, Ethan found himself standing by the window staring at the city below. He didn't hear Maya approach until she spoke softly. "Long day?" He turned, smiling faintly. "They're all long." She noticed the framed photo on his desk, an unfamiliar woman holding a newborn wrapped in white. "Is that your wife?" she asked hesitantly. Ethan's jaw tightened, then relaxed. "Was," he said quietly. "She passed away 10 years ago, during childbirth." "I'm so sorry," Maya whispered. He nodded slowly. "Her name was Claire, and our daughter was Grace." His voice broke slightly on the name. "I spent years blaming myself. I buried everything in work. I thought if I just built something great enough, the pain would disappear. But it doesn't. It just changes shape." Maya sat beside him, her heart aching for the man who had once seemed so unreachable. "Maybe it's not meant to disappear," she said softly. "Maybe it's meant to remind us we're still alive." He looked at her then, really looked at her, the tired mother who had walked into his company with nothing but courage and somehow brought warmth back into his world. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For letting me remember what it feels like to care again." From that night on, their bond deepened. Not romantic, but profoundly human. They understood each other's pain, their resilience, their quiet strength. Ethan began to mentor her personally, helping her grow within the company. In turn, Maya helped him heal from the ghosts of his past. By the end of the year, Cole Enterprises hosted a company gala to celebrate their new family initiative. The hall shimmered with lights and applause, but the loudest cheer came when Ethan walked onto the stage holding little Lily in his arms. The crowd gasped, then erupted into applause. Ethan waited for silence before speaking into the microphone. "When I first saw this child in our building, I thought she didn't belong here. I was wrong. She reminded me that every success story starts with someone brave enough to show up despite the odds." He looked toward Maya, who stood among the crowd, tears glistening in her eyes. "This," he continued, "isn't just a company anymore. It's a community, and it took one mother's courage to remind me that compassion isn't weakness, it's leadership." The room stood on its feet. Cameras flashed. And as the applause filled the air, Ethan turned to Maya and handed Lily back to her. "Thank you for giving me a reason to build again," he said quietly. Maya smiled, holding Lily close. "And thank you for proving that second chances exist." That night, as the gala ended and the lights dimmed, Ethan walked back to his office. He placed the silver bracelet beside a new photo. One of him, Maya, and Lily at the company daycare, all smiling. He whispered to the empty room, "Grace, I hope you're proud of me."